Hi.
Hello.
Thank you so much for joining me.
That's okay. Thank you for having me. Can you see me? I don't know if you can.
No.
There we go. Start
Yeah,
video.
now I can.
Yeah,
Yeah, thank you so much for joining me.
that's all right.
So, what made you want to be a women's health coach?
I just I've always been a really introspective person. So I've always really loved to just understand why I'm feeling a certain way or doing something. And I was really always loving to help people as well. And when I was 13, I started suffering with an eating disorder, and that kind of lasted through until my early 20s, and at which point when I was 25 I just kind of had a what I call a quarter life crisis, and I thought I just had no idea what I wanted to do, and everything felt like it was crumbling down around me, and everything that I thought I was going to do, it just didn't feel right anymore, and I felt like I was really changing as a person. And because I was really introspective and I just looked within, and I just thought, you know what I really love to do? I really love helping people. I really love helping women and helping my girlfriends, and not just helping them, but making them feel really healthy and happy. And I think happiness was like the main starting point. So, actually, Her Unique Glow, which is my website and my coaching practice, it actually started out as more of like a little positivity blog and just helping people to feel more positive, and then it kind of just spiraled from there.
Yeah, where'd you get the name, Her Unique Glow?
I loved, well, every girl, every woman needs to glow. They all have their inner glow, but I just loved that Her Unique Glow turned into hug,
Yeah,
and the idea that everybody just needs a good hug.
yeah, for sure. That's cool. And then obviously, we're coming on the new year, which is such a health focused time, and people want to get healthier. And what would you say to those who want to get healthy but kind of don't know what to do because the world of health is so there's so many mixed messages and people don't know what to do or where to start.
I think January is a very interesting month
Yeah,
because there is so much information out there about how to diet, how to lose weight, how to be healthier. And I think what it actually does is it creates problems
yeah,
because people want the solutions. So they create the solutions and then they create the problem.
mm-hmm.
So I think, and then it causes people to feel guilty about what they had over Christmas, or feeling that they're not healthy. And food is food at the end of the day, and occasions and celebrations are meant to be enjoyed and they're meant to be lived. And there's not really meant to be like any guilt or shame around those sort of things. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you're an unhealthy person, but I think we all get to January and we all feel as though, God, we've done something wrong. We shouldn't have eaten those things and we are really unhealthy. But if you do get to January, and like most people, like even myself, it's kind of like a new year, it's a new month, and you just feel, that this is the time you want to make a little bit of a change. I think the first thing to just think about is take all those fad diets out the window. You don't have to go on social media and start following everything that you see. You
Yeah,
don't have to go into Google and type in and just start, going crazy with all the questions. Just start small
mm-hmm.
and pick things that are really accessible, pick things that are really easily achievable, because all small, I like to call them baby steps, but if you take just even one baby step every day, by the end of the week, that's 7 steps that you've taken. By the end of the month, that's 30 steps that you've taken. So if you just start really small, even all those small steps will really amount to something amazing. So it's just about starting small, but not thinking too much about all the noise that goes on around that time.
Yeah, for sure. And then for those who are struggling with eating disorders, it can be kind of triggering to see all the diet stuff and just new year new me. Like, what advice would you give to somebody struggling, like maybe to not look at social media as much or to know how to cope?
Oh, exactly. I think that's one of the most damaging things. And I think that's what a lot of these companies and sometimes even influencers as well, I think that's what they target. They target those insecurities in people to sell products. And I'm not saying that all of them do. I'm not saying that that's a bad thing at all. There's a time and place for all of that. But specifically, if someone was suffering with an eating disorder or with disordered eating as well, January and seeing all of these diet trends and fitness trends and things that can really have a negative impact on self-esteem. And I think if you do suffer and if you do find that it's very triggering, then just look at the content that you're consuming. So it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to quit social media or whatever, but I always say that you need to really be conscious about the content that you consume. So if you are looking at accounts, if you are looking at things online and you find that they're triggering you, then maybe just put a pause on that for a moment. Maybe just stop following them or choose not to look at them. But I think also being realistic, and if you do suffer or if you have suffered with an eating disorder, just knowing that as you go into the new year that you are going to be more exposed to it, and just to put steps in place to help you if you do feel like you're being triggered, or talking to someone, finding a coach, or even just a loved one that you can just vent to and talk to and be open with, I think can really help.
Yeah, for sure. And then you post a lot about Pilates, which is really cool. And you post great like workout stuff. What kind of drew you to Pilates?
I have always loved Pilates. I think there is something so calming, but also something so empowering about really, seeing what your body can do, but also knowing that you're really enhancing it as well. So I actually used to be a fitness instructor and personal trainer, and I did that for quite a while. I've probably been doing it for over 10 years now. And I used to teach all sorts of things. And one thing that I really was always drawn to was just seeing people transform and evolve. And I guess that's why I really love the concept of health coaching and why I love coaching women. And I just love seeing people transform. And through teaching Pilates, that's where I noticed the biggest transformation. It's amazing. There's flexibility, balance, strength. Those are three of the core principles of Pilates. And I also think that they can translate into your everyday life as well. So, and you can really notice such a difference in such a short amount of time.
Yeah, it's really great. I love Pilates. I think it's so fun, but it can be really, really challenging, especially when you first do it. And it's like you don't expect it to be that hard. It looks really easy, and then you do it, and it's pretty hard. And especially if you don't have flexibility, then it gets really challenging. So, what advice would you give to somebody who's just starting Pilates and is like, this is so challenging. I can't lift my leg over my head, and like this really hurts. My core is killing me, and just doesn't feel like they have the stamina to keep going.
Yeah, I think there's like a preconception that you have to be super flexible to do Pilates and you have to be super strong. And I suppose if you look at Instagram, if you look at social media, if you look at the pictures of Pilates, and if you go into the studio and you see all these fit women or men coming out, and it does feel quite overwhelming, but you do not have to be flexible at all to do Pilates. That comes with time, and it is about increasing flexibility. It is about strengthening your body, and obviously there's a lot of core work involved. But if you are a beginner, then I think the first thing to do is to find a teacher or a class that you really enjoy and that you really gel with. And something that I've learned over my years of teaching myself is that every teacher and every instructor is so different. We are all taught, hopefully, the same thing, and we are all educated in that practice or whatever we're teaching, but we're also very different and our personalities come across. So when you go to a class, you're more likely to gel with one person over another or enjoy that class more. And I think if you're a beginner, it's really important to find an instructor that you trust, that you know knows their stuff, but that you really, really gel with. And I think, knowing about the stuff kind of thing, I think it's really important if you are a beginner and you are doing Pilates, some of the exercises are really challenging. and you want to make sure that you're doing it with the correct technique. So I think finding an instructor that is really hot on that and really will look at you and make sure that you're doing it well is a really good place to start.
Yeah, for sure. And then obviously, so many people want to get more into working out, but it can be really hard to find time because busy lives. And sometimes, if you have an hour off, like you don't feel like working out, you just want to take free time. But how can you like find a way to put working out into your life?
So I think if you do want to work out, there are so many parts to that. But I think making it a priority, number one, whatever you make a priority in life, you are going to make time for and you are going to do it. So if watching Netflix is your priority and you want to get to that next episode on that series, you're going to find time for it no matter how busy you are. So that's what you need to. That I don't know if internet connection, I don't know if you heard any of that.
Oh yes, yeah, I heard
Yeah.
it.
So yeah, you just need to make sure it's a priority. Finding something that you enjoy. If you enjoy it, you are going to be more likely to do it and to follow through with it. So I think a lot of people, when you start exercising, you feel you have to run on the treadmill, or you have to go to that CrossFit class, or you have to go to X, Y, and Z. And you know, if I'm totally honest, I hate running. I am not a good runner at all. I do not enjoy it. So if I feel like I've got to force myself to go and run, I'm probably not going to find the time to do it. However, if you told me that, you know, go and do a dance class, go and do some ballet, go and do some Pilates, I am more likely to make that time and to go and do it. So finding something that you enjoy is the second thing. And the third thing, if you are starting to exercise and if you are really busy and you're trying to find the time, don't use it as time to punish yourself. Because if we really force ourselves to exercise, and sometimes I think a lot of us, when we do start exercising, it's because we are almost punishing ourselves that we need to lose weight, or we need to be fitter, or we need to look like so and so, or we need to get into this dress, and it's all coming from a place of punishment. And in all of my programs and all of my books, I talk about the concept of body love and the idea of doing everything from a place of love. And if you are going to approach exercise because you're thinking, I love to do this, or I love my body and I want to see what it can do, or I love my body, I want to enhance it and make it healthier, again, you're going to probably, you know, find time to exercise a little bit more. But be realistic. So if you have an hour spare and you don't want to exercise the whole hour, you don't have to. Pick 15 minutes. If you want to just sit and watch TV when the commercials come on, go and do some squats, go and do some lunges. You know, just figure out how much time you actually do have and that you are willing to put towards exercising and to make it a priority, and then fit it in around that. You don't have to spend an hour, you know, cycling at a spin class.
Yeah. How often do you recommend people work out, or is it kind of different for everyone?
So in England, the sort of health governing body, the NHS, recommends that people work out or do moderate activity for about 150 minutes a week. So that's what I stick to and what I recommend. So that's about 30 minutes 5 times a week, which is quite easily doable. But I'd say at least try and get in 3 moderate forms of exercise per week to start off there. If you're starting off, just start off with 3 times a week, however long you can dedicate to that.
Yeah. And you're also an intuitive eating coach, which is really cool. And so, how did you get introduced to intuitive eating, and how would you explain it to somebody who doesn't really know what that means?
Yeah, so intuitive eating, I was first introduced to it when I was recovering myself from my eating disorder, but then also working with clients. I just noticed that quite a few of them were coming to me to find something that, intuitive eating coaches call food freedom. And the idea of not having to follow rigid diets or strict diets, or just wanting to find freedom with the food they're eating and just build a healthier relationship with food. And that's where a lot of my practice is based off. And it's not necessarily about losing weight or wanting to be thinner. It's just about having a healthy relationship with food and enjoying food. So intuitive eating is about ditching the diet mentality. It's about letting go of that fad diet mentality and just tuning into your body, tuning into your hunger cues, your fullness cues, and not being driven by external factors, and letting go of that notion that there are good and bad foods and superior foods, and just looking at all foods as neutral, and that you can enjoy them and be healthy, and it has nothing to do with how much you weigh.
Yeah. And then for people who have a very bad diet state of mind and it feels like getting there is almost impossible, and like maybe if they are struggling with an eating disorder, like they don't have those hunger cues yet and know how to handle it, what advice would you give to them?
I think if that's the case, and I think if they did suffer with an eating disorder, I think um, those sort of things really do require specialist help. So I think talking to a coach, talking to someone who is appropriately qualified, who can help guide them towards that way of intuitive eating can really help. But also just to be aware that intuitive eating is really hard, because right from a young age, we forget how to tune into our hunger and fullness cues. You know, we think we start having breakfast at a certain time, lunch at a certain time, dinner at a certain time. Everything becomes very regimented and very strict right from early on. So actually pretty much all of us have been stripped away of those intuitive eating habits and practices that we were naturally born with. So if you do suffer with an eating disorder or disordered eating, then trying to all of a sudden jump in and eat intuitively, you're right, you probably won't know what your hunger cues are or your fullness cues are. So it is really, really challenging. But if that's something that you want to do, then working with someone who is appropriately qualified is such a great place to start. But also to know that it is not a quick fix. It is not something that will happen overnight, and just to be realistic about it. But I think the first thing to do is just to take the pressure off, because we go into diets, we go into wanting to change our body, we go into all of these things almost like punishing ourselves, but putting so much pressure on ourselves and on these diets and on this new way of eating that it takes away from that food freedom aspect. So just taking away that pressure is a great place to start.
Yeah, for sure. And then as we go on to the new year, do you have any goals or plans?
So I would love to do my yoga qualification. That is something that is definitely that has been ticking in the back of my mind for a while. So that is something I'd love to work on. And then I've got some projects coming out in the new year. So one that I'm still currently working on at the moment, and the other one I've actually got a recipe book coming out in January, which is exciting.
It's really exciting. Then where can people find you?
So I'm mostly on Instagram. So that is at Her Unique Glow on Instagram. And then YouTube. So on YouTube, it's slightly different. It's Zenny Middleton. So my name, that's on YouTube, but I'm mostly on there, mostly on Instagram. And then I have a podcast as well, which is Her Unique Glow's Nourish Living, or my website, heruniqueglow.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
For your time.
Okay.
Nice
Thanks.
to meet you. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.